Hi there, it's October. I was totally expecting flooding all over the place based on what the locals told me, but there's no flooding. This is awesome. I've been sort of checking on this field today, and it looks like this grass is ready to go. So I'm going to get over to the shop. I had requested last month to have a mower, a windrower, and a tedder brought over from the mainland so that I could buy them, since it's not something I'm able to rent here on the island. So they should have that stuff in. They were saying if the ferry couldn't make it because of bad weather, it wouldn't come in this month. But we didn't have any problems overnight on the tide, so I think it should be here. So I'm going to get my little electric tractor over there. This is going to be the tractor that I use for my grass work. Pick up my new equipment, bring it back, and get started cutting this grass. That's so exciting. Once I get that done, I can get sheep. Looking forward to it. Okay, I know that was strange. I mowed everything, but I can only afford a front mower right now for this, which is not ideal, I admit it. And my rower is honestly not very wide, so it didn't even make sense to row up these swaths if I'm just going to bale them. So I've baled half of this field, maybe, I don't know if it's actually half, with grass. And then the rest I'm going to ted and bale it as hay. My sheep need both grass and hay, but the chickens want a little bit of grass. Maybe I should do a little more of this as grass? I don't know. No, I've already detached the baler. I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to do it as hay. It'll be fine. So yeah. I do have a rower, which I will use on the hay after I ted it to make hay. And then I'll get the rest of it baled up, and then I guess I can collect it all at once. That probably makes the most sense. Although I haven't actually unloaded the straw that's on the trailer now, so I'm going to have to do that before I can get the trailer back down here. Okay, well, let's get tedding. such small equipment, I managed to get all that done pretty quickly, so that's great. I put the trailer in here with the straw bales. I'm thinking I'll put the straw bales in the corner back here, and then maybe the hay bales in the middle, and then the grass bales there closest to the sheep. Then I can just take it all right through that doorway into where the sheep are. So that is my plan. Let's get this unloaded so that I can then take the trailer down and pick up all that grass. So this may be a slightly tedious task. If it gets to be too boring, I'll just stop recording and do the rest of it off camera. So yeah, I've been here for a couple months now, and I'm slowly getting the hang of this whole tide thing, and knowing that eventually the causeway is going to flood. I don't have to go over there very often. I've got those 2 fields over there, but mainly I just keep to myself here. It's not such a big deal. So I've been learning about this place. These raised bits of earth that the farm is situated on, and those other houses over there, they're called terps. And they're raised because of storm surge that happens in the spring and fall sometimes with storms that makes the water rise really high and potentially floods the fields and things. The idea is that the terps are high enough that if the water does come up, it's not going to bother us, our houses and things up here. And there's actually a term for it. I can't pronounce it, the German. I really need to start learning German. But it basically translates to land under, and essentially means the fields and things get flooded. So I won't see the grass field again when that happens for some time. And I kind of thought that was going to happen before I was able to harvest it. So I was kind of expecting to have to wait a while to do that, but I guess the fall storms are going to hold off a little bit. So there's 3 other houses here on this terp with me. And apparently on every terp there's somebody who's serving in a sort of official capacity. It's their job to keep track of things like how high the storm surge is supposed to get, and what sort of flooding we may get, and what the ferry schedule is going to be like, if the ferry is going to stop running for some time. Apparently that happens when the storm surge is high. It's not safe for the ferry to run. And my neighbor Katrina is the official contact for this terp, and she came around and told me there may be some storms coming in tonight, so I really should try to get everything, that's gonna make a mess, I really should try to get everything put away in my yard before tonight, in case a storm comes in. I mostly am keeping to myself, and my neighbors are mostly letting me. Katrina, she has 2 kids, a teenage boy and a slightly younger girl, and they're both going to the school here. Turns out there's only 1 school on the island. It serves all the kids. I guess the population here is pretty small, so there aren't very many kids going to school at the same time. It's very different to where I grew up. I think my graduating class had like 300 students, 350. So if you count all of the high school students together, that probably would have been what, like 13 or 1400 kids? And that was just high school. I mean, this is like K through college, all in one school. So I can't really imagine what it's like to grow up somewhere where you just know the same people all the time, and there aren't even that many of them. But everyone here seems pretty close-knit as a result of that, and I guess it's not terribly surprising. Probably shouldn't put too far out before I start a second stack, or else I'm never going to be able to reach stuff in the back. So the kids, the teenage boy is, I think, getting into that moody teenager phase. He barely talks whenever I see them outside, and I hear loud music coming from what I assume is him. Kind of thought when I moved out here to an island in the middle of nowhere, it would be quiet, but definitely he makes that not the case. Not every night. Sometimes it's quiet, but more often than not he's playing music. And it seems like Katrina is married, but her husband lives on the mainland and only comes back sometimes. There apparently isn't a ton of work here for the locals on the island. And so Katrina has 2 jobs. She works over at a restaurant, a little cafe that's over by the lighthouse, not far from here. I haven't been over there yet, really. I've like walked past it. I haven't had any occasion to stop there. And she also helps clean the holiday cottages that are here on the island whenever there's a lot of occupancy over there. If there aren't very many people, the woman who runs the cottages doesn't always need help. But if there are a lot of people staying, then she brings on extra people from the island to help with like cleaning the places and mowing and dealing with upkeep and stuff. And Katrina does that when they need more people. And it turns out there's the 2 other houses here on this trip. One of them has got just a guy by himself. And I gather he's the mailman here. And he also helps out sometimes over at the shop when they've got a lot of repair work. Evidently, during the off-season, all the farmers will take their equipment in to get repaired. And sometimes they need extra hands depending on how much stuff is over there. So he's a mailman / repair guy. And the other house here on my trip has got a couple of fellows living there. Don't necessarily want to assume what their arrangements are. But yeah, it turns out they own a factory that takes wool and turns it into fabric. And I don't know if they do clothing manufacture also or not. Maybe it's just the wool and the fabric. And given that I'm trying to raise sheep here, that's my plan anyway, I will probably be working with them, their factory. So I'm trying to stay on friendly terms with them. But they don't seem to want anything to do with me. I assume because I'm not a local and I don't speak German, and yeah, some of the folks here are kind of standoffish toward me, and those 2, unfortunately, are some of the standoffish folks. The people here are always visiting each other here on this trip and driving into town to visit other people. It's like what I would consider a strangely social place. But maybe that's because I spent a lot of my time living in cities before I moved here, where you were social with your social group, but you weren't really social with, like, your neighbors necessarily. A lot of people kept to themselves more. Here, on this little island, where I would have assumed people would keep to themselves more, they're actually really social. Guess that must come from tight bonds you would form after living so many years with so few people. If the population of this island is more than 100, it's probably not much more. There's not a lot of people to spend most of your life with. I did not quite bargain for that when I moved here, but I'm here now, and it is what it is. So I'm just trying to make the best of it. Okay, well, you get the gist. I'm going to be doing more of this, and I'll get the rest of this loaded off the trailer here, and then I'll take this trailer down to the field and pick up the hay bales and the grass bales that I just made and put them in the shed over there. So I'll be doing this for a while, and I'll bring you back in when I'm done, I guess.